But as far as that, just we get out there on a daily basis and out in the engine bay, and we train on it. I get and I tell them, to their credit, is you don't have to wait on me. Get out there, build knots. Tie knots, build systems, practice it. If you have questions, problems, come get me. We get out there as a crew and do it. So that way, just get them more comfortable. That way, in case this scenario does come up, they're not just standing there watching. You can actually apply. Even if you're not classified as that, you still have the skills and the knowledge to do it, and that way you can help and be able to assist.
Breathing in diesel exhaust fumes is like walking into a fire without a mask. Over time, that exposure leads to cancer. Protect yourself with MagnaGrip. To learn more, visit magnagrip.com.
All right. Hey, let me welcome everybody in for our podcast, Generation Engine. We're super excited about our guest today. Something a little bit different. We're going to take it down a little bit different of a path, but I'm going to let him introduce himself. Then we're going to kind of get into multiple topics for this one. And kind of I think the biggest thing we're going to kind of focus on is that senior man responsibilities and those type of things. So let me start with my introduction. My name is Todd Edwards, 30 plus years of Atlanta Fire Rescue. Currently own a small little training company, and fortunate and blessed enough to get to teach with guys from all over the country. So super excited about the next couple of weeks, going to Huntsville, Alabama next week. And then the following week, we'll be in Pensacola Beach doing a bunch of stuff. So a lot of really cool things happening this fall as well. I'm going to let Anthony introduce himself. Go ahead, boss.
Anthony Rowett, captain with the Mobile Fire Rescue Department, 16 years there, 3 years as a volunteer in northern New Jersey before that. Like Todd, small little training company, get to travel around and teach with a lot of people like Todd, be in Pensacola with him in a couple weeks. So other than that, took the summer off to be with the kids. So it'd be good to get back around everybody again.
And get a break.
Yeah. They're back in school.
And what we always do, Rob, is I just let you introduce you. So go.
Okay. Rob Brown, captain with Mobile Fire Rescue, a little over 12 years on. Also part of our technical rescue team. Other than that, I don't have a small training company, so.
Well, there's plenty of that, so don't do it. Don't do it. So I want to start off. I want to start this a little bit different. Captain just had a really interesting, not your everyday scenario rescue, and if you could kind of give everybody who's listening, I think this is, and the reason I want to do this first, Captain, is I think that a lot of guys on those, small, medium-sized fire departments, they don't think that it's ever going to happen in their city, that they're ever going to be involved in that kind of rescue scenario, especially, 30 floors above the ground where you can go splat really easy if you don't know what you're doing. So if you kind of tell our listeners and viewers about what happened, how it all transpired, and we'll move on from there.
Yeah, so we got dispatched to Technical Rescue, High Angle Rescue, RSA, which is the tallest building in the state of Alabama. I think approximately 40 stories tall. Anyway, window wash, 2 guys washing windows outside. One of them, his descender on his gear got jammed. Couldn't get it unstuck. The way they operate, his partner wasn't able to help him out, so he descended all the way down, called 911, So anyway, so we show up, we're coming downtown, we see him hanging there. So it's like you said, it's kind of especially for Mobile, almost a once in a career opportunity. I've been on a little over 12 years. Captain Rowett's been on 16, and this is the first incident of this scale that's happened. We had chiefs on scene that's been doing it for tech rescue for 18 plus years. And first thing they said was, man, I was on the team for 18 years and we never had anything like this. So, definitely, like you said, definitely one of those things you just don't think it's ever going to happen, but one day it will.
So let me back up just a little bit, Cap. So I'm assuming these window washers aren't on your standard rigging where it's a scaffolding system that lowers down the length of the building. They were on individual systems.
Correct. Yeah. So they both had their own lines. So they were anchored up around on the 35th floor. There's anchors on the RSA. They were anchored in. Had their ropes hanging. So basically, what they do is they just go parallel with each other on different sections, and they have a little seat that they kind of have built into their system where they're not just completely suspended, but yeah, it's not a platform or a scaffold. So each one of them has their own raising and lowering system, basically just like you would if you're rappelling, through rock climbing or tech rescue, anything. So they have a descender, an ascender, and then they also have their ASAP system, built in case they do fall, with the tether and all that on it.
So this is a manual system. They have to operate the system all manually. Is that what?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Correct. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that I'm sure is out there. The ones that I've seen in Atlanta are typically mechanical systems. And that's usually where the guys get in trouble, where there's a mechanical failure and not just, not with the manual type thing with the descender failing. Let me ask you, so how many did you do? Was it just you that went over the ledge, or how did all that transpire? Again, this is a unique thing. It's not your everyday
Right.
rescue. And, I think some guys that maybe are involved with tech rescue may pick up a few things that you guys found, both that worked and things looking back now, that you may would do differently.
Yeah. So just to kind of clarify, we have 2 tech rescue stations in the city. We are the one located in Midtown, so we're closer to the downtown area. So we were first on scene as a tech rescue. Engine 3's crew was first on scene with truck 4. They went up, kind of located the guy. They were in verbal communication with him, so they were able to identify that he wasn't injured or anything like that. So pretty much we decided at the ground level what equipment we was going to take up, so we took our gear bags, took a few bags of rope, harnesses, stuff like that. So once we kind of got up there, talked with the engine and truck company crew that was up there, figured out what was going on. Yeah, we kind of made the decision to send the rescuer over. It goes back to levels of training and manpower. On that particular call, on my crew, it was me and one other guy were the only certified rescue technicians. We have a few other guys who had some of the classes. We do pretty regular training at the station for it, so I still felt comfortable with their skills and their ability to do rigging and help out. So with that being said, we made the decision. All right, who's going to go over? And it was me. So yeah.
Now, do you in your systems, do they lower you from the top, or do you control the descent yourself?
Most of the time in a situation like that, they'll control from the top. Because if I control it, it's harder to convert it to a raising system to getting back up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easier to operate everything to lowering, raising, be able to convert from one to the other from the top side than trying to communicate between what I'm doing and what they're doing. It's just much easier. So we rigged up. We use Petzl clutches. So we run a twin mainline system. So they're both operated at the same time from the same anchor point. Just kind of a dual safety system. If one line fails, you still have the other one. But yeah, it allows them to, once I got down there, identified what we was going to do, made the decision, was able to communicate back to them, then they were able to convert it from the lowering with a Z-rig back up to a raising system, and just had the manpower and hauled them up.
Awesome. Also, you guys did go with you guys elected to raise up instead of lower down.
Yeah, it was about a 460 feet lower.
Okay.
So it was much easier to raise 25, 30 feet back up to the 31st level than it was to lower down.
Right. Okay. That's all I wanted. I just wanted that clarification.
Yeah.
So
Well, Todd, I want to put this part out there for you too, because I think Rob's not giving himself some credit for a little bit of part of it that is going to get your wheels turning. There was a lot of officers off that day.
Mm-hmm.
So Engine 3 was first in. I was on a time swap. at the beach with my kids before they go back to school. So Pettis, my driver's acting up as an officer. The truck boss is on vacation. His driver is acting up as the officer. So the first two companies to get there and size it up, I think they both did a great job. But coming in as the tech rescue company, Rob was also the first captain on scene. Then when the other tech rescue companies got there, there was another officer off, which was actually the senior guy of tech rescue, probably on the shift, and had another driver acting up. So they did a lot with guys acting up in roles. And I think of all of it, when I got to work and heard guys talk about it, because I came in for the night side that day, that was the proudest part of it, is how everybody moved up and just fit in and still knew how to handle it, leaned on the captains that were there for them to just step in. And then Rob, Captain Mike, they stepped in and did what they had to do, being the captains on scene and take charge. But when I looked at it, of what they had, when I got to work and heard the story, that was the part that stood out to me, is you had a lot of guys acting up in roles.
Right.
And they didn't step back. They didn't freeze. They did what they had to do. They let Rob and them come in. But to me, that put Rob in a little bit of a spot to be coming in. And there wasn't another captain there yet making any decisions. He was the first one truly to be an officer there. And it's just the way it worked out with manpower that day. But to me, that was probably the biggest thing that stacked against them. And they handled it, I'm not going to say with ease, but ultimately with ease, the whole thing went very well. For having that many guys out of position, it's probably not something you always train for, to have all the officers except for two. You know what I mean? And maybe if you're listening to this, that was the scenario that day, and those officers had to step into that role. And then it ended up with training being that day, one of those officers had to go over the wall. So it came into play of, like Rob said, all these guys do the training. They might not be certified, but they are qualified. Their officers trust them to do the job. But a lot of people had to act out of their role at that call. And I don't think necessarily Rob's given himself and everyone on the scene enough credit for that part, because it put a lot more on their shoulders.
Yeah. And that definitely leads me into that. The training, obviously, in tech rescue is, totally different than other parts of our job. Do you guys set up a command structure? So in those scenarios, for me, I would be command, but then I would have an ops chief that would be right there with you guys, overseeing the rigging, the rescue, the lowering, the raising, so that it really becomes into that NIM system, that we don't have 10 guys trying to make decisions, and we really start delegating out the authority, that we kind of keep that. I've been involved in a few of those where there's 42 ideas, and until somebody kind of raises their hand and goes, this is what we're damn doing, it can get really confusing really, really fast. And I think that's a huge point Rowett brought up, that so many guys were step-up officers that day, not in their comfort zones, in a sense. Did that transpire when you guys got up there and started getting your rigging set up?
Wasn't so normally we kind of have sort of a structure. So we have a chief that's over our tech rescue. He's actually a district chief on our shift. He was not able to respond on that call. Normally, if he would have kind of come in and been like the head guy. Hey, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. Fortunately, not taking anything away from him, and talking to him afterwards, it kind of worked out that he wasn't there, because it allowed guys to kind of step up in a role that maybe they wouldn't normally have done.
Right.
And built up some of their confidence, and hey, we can do this on our own. We don't have to have chief here to tell us what to do. We train on this enough. So it's kind of that we normally kind of have somewhat, and it's usually a chief officer, company officer, captain, company officer, like Captain Rowett said, this scenario, normally him or the ladder truck captain would have been there. Both of those guys are trained in tech rescue stuff. It's probably been a few years since they've really dove off into it. They have the background of it, so they could have made some of those decisions before we got on scene. Unfortunately, that day, that wasn't the case. You had two drivers stepping up, acting out of their normal role. And on my truck, my driver was actually gone that day. So I had a private who had stepped up and was relief driving for me. So again, another officer that was not in play that normally would have been there. Once we got there, they kind of three and truck four's crew just kind of looked at us like, hey, look, y'all are the guys. What are we going to do? So we just kind of had to make that decision. And once the other crew, Captain Mike and his crew, showed up, we kind of told them what was going on and what we were doing, and they were like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's go. We kind of discussed a few different options. Some of it was, let's get over the edge, get to the guy and see exactly what's going on, and then we can kind of go on the fly from there. As far as if we need to make any adjustments, changes to what the plan was going to be, but ultimately it went pretty smooth.
Well, I think it brings up so many layers of things that kind of to review and look at, and I think one of the things that got said, it was actually on the agenda. Happenstance to be on the agenda. I heard Captain Rowett mention a couple times that these guys were trained but not certified in that rescue company or in that tech rescue company. How do you go about that, Captain, or what are your thoughts about that because this happened a lot in Atlanta where we'd have guys assigned to the heavy that weren't tech rescue or rope rescue, or in some cases, not even hazmat techs, but we had to put bodies in spots some days. How do you guys overcome that when you have all these step ups and backfills and everything else that goes on?
So in our situation, for Mobile to be classified as a rescue technician, you have to have I think it's 4 of the tech rescue classes with the fire college under your belt. My guys have had at least rope, and one of them has had confined space. So they've had a couple of the classes, just not enough to be classified as a rescue technician. So they do have some of the certification courses. But as far as that, just we get out there on a daily basis and out in the engine bay, and we train on it. I tell them, to their credit, is you don't have to wait on me. Get out there, build knots, tie knots, build systems, practice it. If you have questions, problems, come get me. We get out there as a crew and do it. So that way, just get them more comfortable. That way, in case this scenario does come up, they're not just standing there watching. You can actually apply. Even if you're not classified as that, you still have the skills and the knowledge to do it, and that way you can help and be able to assist. So I think just getting their comfort level. And I even asked them several times before I went over the edge if they were good. I said,
breathing in diesel exhaust fumes is like walking into a fire without a mask. Over time, that exposure leads to cancer. Protect yourself with MagnaGrip. To learn more, visit magnagrip.com.
I trust you. I know you know what you're doing, but are you comfortable? Because we're 400 feet in the air. I want to make sure. And they said, I got it. I'm good.
All right.
Okay. And I trust you. Life's on the line. I trust you. They did a good job.
That's awesome. So is it to be on Engine 8, is it a requirement that members at that company get their tech certification?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Awesome.
So Engine 8 and we have Engine 12 and Truck 17 are our 3 technical rescue apparatus. And we have some senior guys who's on each shift who's had them. Had some of the certifications for years. Of course, just like any department, we have guys come and go. So we have a lot of new guys on all 3 shifts. So they're in the process of getting that. But yes, you do have, it is required. There's no time frame on when you have to have them. It's just basically when they're offered, take the class, get it. And then just as long as you're continuously working towards getting that classification, that certification, you're good. But yeah, so it's required. If you want to be there, this is your requirement that you have to do. And if you don't want to do it, then we'll find another spot where you can get somebody in that does.
Yeah,
I'll tell you too, because I don't know how you guys did it quite in Atlanta, but like the tech rescue team here, Rob's been a part of it. I mean, forever. He was a fireman in Engine 8, moved up. They're really good about including people that aren't even going to become part of the team, that just want the training, so they're helpful. They're really good if there's an opening in a class to let other guys get in it and get the training. So like he talked about, Chief Carmichael. He's come over to Fairhope and stuff before. He's the chief over it. When he might have been the captain on Engine 8 before Rob got there. before he made chief at the time, or he might not even been there yet. He might have still been a driver at 12, and he was running the tech team. And I reached out to him and said, "Hey, man, I got a lot of guys down here that they want to get at least rope. They want the rope classes." And he was like, "Well, it's got to go to tech rescue, first." I said, "Well, can we be the priority right under them? Because the majority of our rope calls happen in the port. A lot of our rope rescues are in the ships. So they want to be helpful. They don't want to just stand around and not be useful. They want the training." And as soon as we had that conversation, he was very good about getting people those classes, so that on days like that, you did have Pettis and Rico and the guys like that Pettis has the class, Rico's taking the class. They're not on the team. They might not all have enough classes to be classified as a tech, but they were able to be helpful because they know what the ropes have to do. If they need equipment, they can go get it. And the tech team has done a good job of doing that and making sure they have resources outside of them to at least be helpful. Because we've had that on a confined space rescue before where I watched a guy go, "Hey, go get this." And he walked, it was in a shipyard. So he walked a half a mile to the heavy rescue, came back. "No, that's the wrong thing." He did that 3 times before we were like, "Hey, can you let us go? I don't need to be the whole attendant. He can. Can I go get it?" And it spiraled from that, but get as many people to where if Captain Rob says, "Hey, I need this. I need a halfback. Go get it." Okay. They know they can at least go get it off the truck and he's not losing a guy. Or, "Hey, build me an anchor." They can do that. They might not build his system for him, but they're not just standing there twiddling their thumbs. They're able to be helpful to him and not in his way. And at least my interaction with that, and he's a good friend of mine, but was Chief Carmichael as a driver or captain at the time running the team, made that effort to make sure. And I know the people before him did as well, but they were building the team. We had more stations at the time that were tech rescue, so they couldn't get as many guys in the classes. But he did a really good job of trying to, the companies that are going to make a lot of runs with tech rescue, to make sure those guys had access to the classes if they wanted. So they're at least some form of an asset to you. They're not in your way. They can do something for you and be helpful.
Well, and that really, and I love that. That's not a complex system you guys are talking about. I mean, and I'd be that guy. I'd be the runner. You do not want me up there tying knots off for you, Captain. And I'll tie a bunch. I don't know if any of them are going to hold, but one of the 42 I'd have to tie to ensure your safety. I think you'll be all right, but I'm not your guy for that. I'll be your runner. Go fetch this, go fetch that. I'll be your fetcher. But it kind of led me as Anthony was talking, I started thinking, and I think this would be great advice coming from you, Captain, doing this dual job of being EMS, well, more than dual, EMS, fire, tech rescue, all those things. For the guys who struggle with that, how do you find the balance in being great at stretching a line and doing a primary search and fighting fire, but also at a drop of a hat, all of a sudden you're dangling, 400 feet above the ground? How do you find the balance to keep everybody on point with all those skill sets? Do you have a system, or is it just luck of the draw, or how are you balancing that out as a leader to get all the training right?
It's not easy sometimes. You only got so many hours plus all the other requirements, and you're making runs and this and that. Fortunately, I've been blessed with guys who want to do it all. That's the key, having guys on your crew that want to be firefighters and do tech rescue. So they have a desire and a passion for it. So like I said, a lot of it is I tell them, "Hey, look, during the day when we're sitting around, between calls or whatever, get the stuff out, get your hands on it. We ain't got to build complex stuff or be out there for 2 hours, just 15, 20 minutes a day. Just get out there and mess with it, So it could definitely be tough trying to get enough training for all of it, for the fire side of it, tech rescue side. We do have a good chief who is all about us training. So anytime we want to train and want to do anything, he is absolutely get off duty or do whatever you can. If you have to do it on air, just monitor your radio, but go train, go train. So fortunately, and Chief Carmichael was good about it. Anytime we want to do anything, we can give him a call. He'll come help us if we have questions or need to get more in depth. But back to your question, it could definitely be a struggle to stay competent and good at all of it, because a lot of times you tend to lean more towards one or the other.
Right.
I do tell my guys we're firefighters first. That's what we signed up for on the job, so we do more fire training, I would say, than we do tech rescue, but we still do the tech rescue at a high enough level to stay competent for a situation like that.
Yeah.
Which
Well, obviously you're
may never
doing
come again before I retire, but
well, you're doing something right. So
yeah,
I thought the part of that early part of the story was interesting that guys have been on the job for 15, 18 years and never been involved in that type of scenario. But I think it really should drive a point home to the firefighters, not just in Mobile but throughout the country, of that kind of an old school adage: if if you don't use it, you lose it. And I think tech
exactly.
rescue is probably the perfect definition of if you don't lose it, you use it. And the level of training, and it's one of those things that it may never happen again, but it could happen next tour.
Oh yeah,
So maintaining that level, I love when you said that the guys that are currently assigned to you have that desire and that passion. I think that is such a key component for success on the fire ground, but I think even more so when you start getting into those tech rescue scenarios and something that you're not doing every single day. I think that goes to a lot of credit to your bosses, yourself, and the organization in a lot of ways. And hopefully, guys that are in those scenarios right now will take a little bit of what you guys are doing, trying to find that balance. I think it's probably going to be your number one challenge.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So going back to that, just a lot of it is like you said. It's the department has kind of built a culture, and it comes from previous captains I had when I first come on, finding that balance of doing both firefighting and the rescue. And so I took that along with a couple of other captains and just kind of continued that what they instilled and taught us as I first, like Captain Rowett said, I started off as a firefighter on Engine 8 for 7.5 years before I promoted to driver. Had a phenomenal captain who was able to maintain that balance. And so I just take a lot of what he instilled in us and just apply it to my crew. And I mean, it's a great, thing I was fortunate enough to be able to learn and be mentored and by him. So it makes it a little bit easier for me because I was able to take a lot of his knowledge and a lot of his teachings and apply that to my crew. And like I said, having guys who want to be there and want to do it,
So
makes it.
and that kind of leads us into this subject. And speaking of that, chief, and those guys ahead of you, is that mentorship, and that's such a big, I don't want to say catchphrase. It's really gained some traction over the last several years. I think Chief Scott Thompson really ignited that whole thing again about mentoring our firefighters from the day we hire them all the way through till they retire in some cases. And I want to go to Captain Rowett on that. I know his anybody who's listening to the show know his mentor on the job, but how about I want to go past the obvious, like I want to go past your obvious one, Captain Rob, and I want to and past your obvious, Captain Rowett, and kind of go a different direction with other mentors, and where you find those guys at, and some of the lessons you've learned, some of the good, the bad, the ugly, and I'll start with Captain Rowett on that. Outside of the guy you always talk about, um, there's times I think you're married to him and not to Ashley because when you get on, you love that guy.
Hey, you always do. Um, but there was a few, and it wasn't always that I worked around them because we always said first shift where Rob was at as a fireman was the stack shift. They had the big three.
Oh, yeah.
They had Captain Smith, Captain Bubba, and Captain Bruce, and they were going to every fire together, and you just knew they were all 30-year guys, and they were those guys. But I took something from all of them. Captain Bruce, I probably personally worked with the least, but every time I worked with Captain Bruce, which was Rob's captain, he left such an impression on me he was probably the most natural and just pure leader I've ever been around. He just had that quality. He didn't get mad. You couldn't get him to raise his voice and yell at you. He would just give you that dad look, and you'd feel this big. And I worked overtime over there one day, and he was like, "You're driving." I was like, "No, we got another driver. Let him drive." "No, you're here 24 hours. He's here 12. You're driving." I was like, "Oh, I don't want to drive for Captain Bruce. What if I miss a turn? I don't know the area." But he led with such quality that even if you didn't work for him, his personality was so big as a leader. The last thing you ever wanted to do was let him down. You wanted to make Captain Bruce proud, and then like Captain Smitty, you've met him. I'm around him a lot. He's a big mentor for me with Captain Ray. And I was just around him a ton. I've always been in the station with him. And then Captain Bubba was the other one. And I always say he's just crazy. I mean, I don't think there's a fire he'll ever back down from. And I watched him not need an attic ladder to get in the attic because he climbed up a tall guy's back to get there. But he was the same way. There was no tell you to do anything. It was just his actions. And those three, they never had to tell you to do anything. You just did it because they were doing it with their action, and you never wanted to let any of those three down. And I still think two of them are retired, and I think about it all the time. Like, the last thing I'd ever want is Captain Bruce, Captain Bubba, Captain Smitty's dad, any of them to ever come back and visit and go, "Man, y'all let it go. Y'all let it fall off." And that's the impression they left. And they all definitely left it better than they found it in their own ways, but they worked together and they fed off each other very, very well to where everyone around them became better.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's awesome. Great examples. Captain Rob, same thing, kind of that same, and you may have the same exact answer as Roe. I don't know, but
yeah. So, like Captain Rowett said, I was fortunate enough to be on first shift in District 1 with those three guys. Captain Bruce was my captain. I can't say enough good things about the man, not just as a company officer and firefighter, but just as a man in life, period. Like, he's just a good person, man, he'll do anything for you on any given day. So I learned a lot from him. Outside of him, definitely Captain Smitty and Captain Bubba. I worked with them a decent bit, getting detailed as a firefighter. Kind of different styles on the way they do at fires. Captain Smitty's a little more vocal and a little more out there as far as letting you know what's going on. Captain Bubba and Captain Bruce were a lot more so. They didn't talk a lot, but they didn't need to, even Captain Smitty, but they led by example, like Captain Rowett said, they were in there doing the, and you didn't want to disappoint them. You didn't want to let them down. And you knew that when they showed up, the job was getting done. So you wanted to be a part of that. You wanted to be a part of their legacy, a part of their team, that people could look and be like, "Hey, that guy was with Smitty, that guy was with Captain Bubba, that guy was with Captain Bruce. We know he's good because we know who he was with," So fortunately, I was able to be a part of that legacy that they've kind of left on the department. And I'm trying to pay that forward to my guys. Another note, Captain I worked for, when I first come on as a firefighter, my driver on Captain 8, he drove for Captain Bruce. He's a captain now in Engine 14, Captain Calhoun. He was very similar to Captain Bruce as far as his style. He's not loud and boisterous and hollering and screaming. He's very calm, collected, knows his job. He was mentored by Captain Bruce for years as a firefighter and a driver. He promoted. So when I made driver, I had the opportunity to go drive for him. So I went over. He drives he's a captain in Tolmanville, Engine 14. I drove for him for a little over 3 years before I made captain. But I learned a lot from him. We're also good friends outside of the job. But he's another one that has a passion for the job, loves his job, trains, makes sure his guys are squared away, jam up. When he shows up, the job's going to get done. So he's another guy that, man, I would go to any fire any day of the week with Captain Calhoun. So, and even Captain Rowett, he's on here. I'm not trying to brown nose or anything, but I've learned a lot from Captain. I haven't worked with Captain Rowett a whole lot up until I made captain. We've made a few fires together. Before I made captain, we were always on different shifts. I've pretty much been on first shift my whole career. He's been on second shift most of yours, I believe. So we haven't worked together a lot, but he's done a lot of training, taught classes, done stuff on the our target solutions, our training thing. So I've learned a lot from Captain Rowett. A lot of the things that he teaches, especially with hose lines and things that kind of outside the box of what you normally get, or what they're able to train at the training center, which is all fire college stuff, which is good. But he takes it a step farther, and that goes back to his mentorship, Captain Ray Hillcrest, and the guys outside the department that he's trained with. So, yeah, it's we've both been fortunate to be around some great leaders, some great captains, and taught some great lessons, life lessons too.
And I love what both of you said, and I think that guys that are in that part of their career, that 10-year part of their careers, really, I love when I see those younger guys, I guess in a sense, stepping up to start mentoring the brand new firefighters coming on our job. And I think it's so important what Scott's done, what Chief Thompson's done there in the colony in Texas, and looking across the country of how that's actually having some impact to that, mentoring these young guys instead of the sit down, shut up, do as you're told mentality that the fire service had for years and years and years. And we've missed out on some great opportunities, I think, with our younger firefighters by not mentoring them up to be the next drivers, the next lieutenants, the next captains on their jobs. So I had a very interesting question. I was recently in Louisiana. I was doing some leadership stuff with an organization there, and obviously mentoring and leadership and all that was coming up. So I'm going to pose this question to see, and I don't need a 40-page list. 3 things, Captain Rob, I'll do you first. 3 things that you look for from mentors. 3 characteristics, I guess, or 3 qualities that you look for in a mentor.
Oh, somebody who kind of been there and done that, like I said, which may be a given, but that old saying, look, especially in fire ground, look for the guy that's calm, cool, not screaming and hollering. That's the man you want to go to. And that's the guys that I've kind of looked up to, kind of tried to emulate, or learn as much from. It has been those guys, the guys that just, they don't get their feathers ruffled, they stay calm, they stay cool, they make smart decisions. So just trying to learn, hey, how do you do it? How are you able to, all hell's breaking loose in this house and you're just calm and cool and collected. Like how are you not freaking out? But it goes back to their training, and knowing their guys and knowing and trusting who they're in there with. So that's a big thing. Character, guys who's got good character, obviously, if I want to learn from somebody, I want to learn from somebody who is just a good person all around, like there's guys that are great firefighters, but outside, they're just, doing God knows what, and while I may be willing to make a fire with them, it's not exactly the person I may want to model myself after or be a mentor, because it's going to lead me down a road that,
Okay, I agree with you there.
Yeah, so and then another one is just somebody who has a passion for the job, somebody who is willing to do what it takes, not somebody who goes in there 8 o'clock in the morning, sit on the recliner and turn the TV on, and they're not going to budge until the tones go off, and even then they're kind of, we're just going to take it easy, like, no, I want the guy to mentor me that's 30 years into the job, still has a passion for the job, still gets in there, gets it done. We have to make them get out. That's the guy that I want to learn from.
Love it. Love. Great answer. Ro, your turn.
All right. So first one's gonna match his first one, and that's they're out there, they're experienced. I want you to teach. If you're teaching me something and mentoring me on something, I can read the book myself. I want someone who's going to teach me what's not in the book. Yeah. I want you to teach me what was learned through experience, lessons learned, the lessons were passed down from the senior men to you that you're now passing down as a senior man to me or a senior boss. whatever it is. I want you to tell me your experiences, not the book. I can go read the book myself. Just like you don't want someone to teach you a class and they just flip the slide and they turn around and read every word. I can read the slide myself. So that's where I start. Is I want someone experienced, and and people are going to change by that, because if we're going to go and drill with Captain Rob on rope, the people I'm looking at might change of who I want to mentor me on that, because they might not be the most experienced fire guy in the world, but they are the best guy for this. So I want them to mentor me on that. When I come back over here to the fire world, the mentor might change. The second one's going to very much kind of go with what Captain Rob said. He said character. My word's always integrity. And I think it goes to everything. And it's that you're doing it for the right reason. You're doing it to help me, to help the job.
Stop. I want you to say that slow and out loud one more time, because I think you hit something that I absolutely could not agree with you more. And I want you to say that shit again.
My second one's integrity, and it's that you're doing it for the right reason. You're doing it to better the job, to better the person you're trying to help. There's nothing that you're trying to gain from it by being the mentor except better the job and better somebody. If someone's doing something for you to better themselves, or get a benefit from themselves, that's not truly them trying to mentor and help you. If I'm trying to mentor you, I'm trying to give you everything I have and hopefully train you to be my replacement or surpass me. That's fine. If you make chief and I don't, that's good. I'll have trained you. You'll let me do what I want. It's good. Not a problem. I hope it happens, because I'm good where I'm at. But it's got to be that person that has integrity and they're doing things for the right reasons. And the third would be that you're doing it with me, not telling me. If you're going to we have a hands-on job. If you can't show me how to do it, I'm going to lose some respect to that mentorship for you, because you're just reciting something to me. If you can get out there and do it with me and show me, you have my respect, because you don't have to do that. You very much could take a role where you just tell me to go do it. If you want someone to go do a gear drill, do it with them. It's not hard, but you're doing it with them. You're showing them you're willing to do it with them. You want them to stretch a line, stretch it with them. You want them to flow water and move, do it with them. Throw a ladder, throw the ladder with them. Force the door. You don't always just have to stand and point and pass on the knowledge that you can spout out with your mouth. Do the skill with me and pass it on. And now we're on the same page. If you're willing to work with me, I promise you I'll do anything you ask. So those are my three, is that you have experience, integrity, and you're willing to do it, not just show me or tell me.
Yeah, I love that. And for the right reasons.
Yeah, but lead by example. And
it comes up in every class I do when I get into leadership about leading by example. And I have an entire list of actually how do you lead by example. And a lot of what you two just said is on my list of it's easy to say I lead by example, and then you follow that question up to the same individual says that, and you say, well, how do you lead by example? And a lot of guys get lost in the weeds about that, or they've never been posed that question. So it's one of my favorite questions, doing that in those leadership programs. My list pretty much mirrors what you guys just really said, and that's why I made Captain Rowett about doing it for the right reasons. It's unfortunate, but in every job, in every department across this country, in the instructor world, in the chief world, there are still too many individuals out there that are worried about what is going to do for them, or how they're going to look, or what it can, how they can get more accolades and pats on the back and more likes and more followers and all that, versus knowing why you're really doing it. And if you're not doing it for the right reasons, and that's, from the leadership standpoint, and I'm not talking about a captain, lieutenant, I'm talking about a driver mentoring that rookie and showing him from day one, this is the pump panel. We pull this lever to do that, and it may seem incidental, but to a 21-year-old who's never seen a pump panel, that's a big deal for them. And that's where I really see mentorship needs to be at all levels, from that rookie all the way through the chief officer rank. I think one of the things that I did have on mine that you guys didn't hit, I just know would be on your list too, is good God, I got to have mentors have to be able to actually listen, not just hear the guy talk, but actually listen with an open mind instead of just nodding their head and they already have 25 answers in their head. As you guys, and I'm sitting here being mentored to a degree by you two right now, because I'm sitting here writing as fast as I can everything you guys are saying. But that is another lost art in the fire service. And you can tell the guys who are doing it for the wrong reasons are only listening enough to respond, and they're not truly listening to gain that understanding of what that firefighter or that officer, whoever it is, they're speaking with. So I'm a huge believer. It's got to be somebody that's easy to talk to. I don't want that guy that I'm like, I don't want to be nervous to talk to the guy or embarrassed to talk to the guy. I want to be confident enough to be able to walk up to Captain Rowe and say, Anthony, I have no clue what I'm doing with this. Obviously, I already told you, Captain Rob. Rob, you do not want me tying this shit. You will die. So, but I want that. But I want to be able to come to you with that same statement at your station and have you turn around and say, no problem. Let me show you how to tie this. And I think those, it, really falls into everybody's list. And there are so many with the internet today and the podcast and the websites and the trainings and the micro conferences. There are so many unbelievable guys out there that we can be listening to and being mentored by without going, hey, hey, Mickey, I want you to mentor me. Every time I'm around Mickey, I'm getting free mentorship. Every time I'm around Roe, I'm getting free mentorship. Every time I'm around Ike and Ray and Steve and Chief Lieb, I'm getting, pretty much I'm just hanging in the background, getting a lot of free crap from them. They don't even know I'm getting it sometimes. But I think that's, again, listening and not just being in the room to respond, if that makes sense what I'm saying. So I strongly encourage guys that are listening to this or viewing this podcast or video cast, whatever we're calling this thing, to take a lot of the things that Captain Rowett and Captain Rob both just said, what to look for. If you're looking for somebody, sometimes you don't actually have to go out and look. Sometimes sitting in the back of the room with your mouth shut, you can learn a lot of things. And I probably have learned more by sitting in the back room, my mouth shut, than I'll ever be able to teach anybody else. And that's why I have notepads scattered throughout my office right now. And it's, nobody else can read this, so I can't even share my notes with anybody. I need a Kyle Romgus, another mentor of mine, to do all my noting. I can read his. I
don't know how you read yours.
I can read. Sometimes I have to read it twice, but I don't want to forget this, and I actually I wrote it down. You can't read it, but I wrote this down, and I don't want to lose this. Great. I know we have a great topic, but I think it's very, very important we do this today, and I'm super excited that we're going to be able to get this out to even more people. And this is all on you, Captain Rowett. I want you to talk about the Alabama Firefighter Foundation kind of changing. So all you, my brother.
Yeah. So the Alabama Firefighters Training Foundation is about a year and a half old. It was formed by a group. It started as a local effort. 3 Mobile firefighters, myself, 2 guys I work with, saying, how do we get training conferences to this area? And Todd was the first person we asked to come down. He's been a good friend of mine for a long time. He came down, did a class, and it's built to every year, kept getting bigger and bigger. And finally we said, okay, this is turning into something. We have people telling us the Fairhope class is my favorite class of the year. And that's on the instructor side and the attending side. So we said, we're doing something right. Let's do something and really help home. Let's help the state. We formed a nonprofit to bring training conferences and what we call drill night trainings to the state of Alabama, 3-hour free classes. Like we had one last night. Mickey Farrell come down from FDNY, did lithium-ion battery fires, which was an awesome thing. One of my absolute best friends in the world to come teach in our academy was an awesome feeling. Just like when Todd, you came down and taught breaking barriers, something very personal to me, to our whole department. But we've had a lot of success, and we've also had a lot of people reaching out saying, how do I get this where I live? When are you guys going to go outside of Alabama? And we kind of set that number of like, once 1,000 people attend the things we're doing in Alabama, we'll look at it. And the decision was made to make some amendments. It was the legal term. and changed the name and the objectives from the Alabama Firefighters Training Foundation to the National Firefighters Training Foundation. Our goal is still the same in Alabama. It's still to take care of home and what our goal was, which is to get to 12 classes a year, one every single month in the Mobile metro area. So 11 classes in Mobile that are free weeknight classes once a month, except for March. And March is our big class in Fairhope and Baldwin County every year. And then every quarter to do something else spread out around the state. But then in addition to that, to really start spreading out and doing this, taking this foundation nationwide and bringing what we were able to do for Alabama. And I've seen a huge impact and a very good reception from our job, and give it to other people as well. So that was officially done and amended with the state. We're waiting on the IRS to do their final steps, and then it's official. But our goal is January 1st to launch that national thing. So and grow it. It's got a board of directors of 8 people that are really running this. And to me, when we put this together, I really looked at. I had this idea. I had 2 people helping me. Todd was a part of it from the beginning to make 4, and we said the same thing we talked about earlier with mentors. They got to all do it for the right reason. It's got to be to just share information and help train firefighters, specifically the ones that can't go to a conference for whatever reason. There's not one near them. It's travel, it's money, whatever it is. Get the training to them. Get them the top-notch guys. So myself, I'm the president. Joseph Pettis, he's my driver, and he's a volunteer in Fairhope, Alabama. He's the vice president. Todd's the secretary right there. Good secretary. You saw his notes.
Yeah, the worst secretary ever.
Miss Kathy, Todd's wife, is the treasurer. My wife is on the management side of it as a board member. Rico Bush, that works with us, he's a board member. Mickey Farrell from FDNY is a board member, and JP Robert, who used to work with us in Mobile, and he's a Coleman firefighter now in Northern Alabama. That's our board to really try to take what we were able to be successful with here in Alabama, taking care of home, and build upon that. Still do what we want to do here, but spread it out as well, and bring stuff to other people as well. So definitely to see something that grew is just something to get one conference a year locally to this is not what we ever imagined it to be. But the fact that people want it is telling you to keep doing it. So we're happy to do it.
Just so people know, or what's the best way for them to contact you right now to get details on how they can get those classes in, say, Tennessee or in Missouri or, wherever the case may be. I know we're not there in January yet, but what's the best way to start that process if somebody's thinking that way right now, Anthony?
So you can reach out directly to us through the website. We haven't changed the website address yet. It's Alabama Firefighters trainingfoundation.com. And there's a link in there. You can send a message to us, and I'll get it right on my phone immediately, and we'll get back to you with some information. Obviously, it's a funding thing at this point because we just made the decision to grow outside the state, and we'll have to raise those funds to continue to do it the way we're doing it, especially with the free classes. To pay someone to fly out and everything, it drains it pretty quick. So it's definitely a challenge for us now to fundraise to do what this vision is. But I think if we do our part and we can fundraise it, we'll do our vision for it will be something very special that no one will be let down by. We've got some big aspirations with it. So
very good, and I'm looking forward to see where it all goes. I think the potential there is huge as far as how clear that. How that's going to play out over the next, over this first year and then growing in the next several years. So I'm super excited to see everything and how it all plays out. And I was just in Cullum, Alabama a few weeks ago, had an incredible evening up there with those guys. Miscalculated the drive. So next time, if I go back to Cullum for any reason, I'm not driving home that same night. That was on me. That was not your fault. That was definitely.
I know. I said, "Do you want a hotel?" Oh no. I said, "All right, go ahead."
Yeah. No, I don't know what. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I made it home.
Great 5-hour interview. Let me guess.
I got home at 2 a.m., but I got home. So they gave me some donuts for the road. I ate donuts all the way back to Atlanta. So So I did, as we always do, guys. We're going to do our closeout. I'm going to go first. I thought that even though we were kind of all over the board, talking about the rescue, talking about mentorship, talking about leading and training in both the fire and the tech rescue, and making all those balances. I think we still hit a lot of great little things in a short period of time. I think one of the things, and I wrote this down very early on in our conversation. You guys can't read it, I know, but I think a really good theme to battle the complacency factor that it would be very easy to fall into when you're trying to do fire training, tech rescue training, hazmat training, and all the other things that we're responsible for nowadays is always kind of go in with that mindset as the officers at any given day. And I think if we all have that mindset on any given day, could be the 30-story window rescue. On any given day, it could be 3 kids trapped on the second floor. On any given day, there could be a massive explosion in downtown, or in our district or whatever. So I think it's kind of a mindset that officers have to really push out to their guys and always have. And I think that helps combat complacency, because the one thing about the fire service and our jobs, any given day, and we don't know day to day, hour to hour, week to week, what is happening next or what we may be thrown into the mix for. The only guarantee is that we're going to be thrown into the mix, whether we're ready for that shit or not. We're going to be thrown into the mix. So I'm a big believer in that mindset of any given day and preparing for any given day. Go ahead, Captain Rob. I'm sorry, Captain Rowett.
I think for me, the biggest takeaway from what we talked about today, and we talked about a lot of different topics, but and I want to give Rob and them their credit. Like I said, I was off that day. That's just the way the cards fall sometimes. But the proudest thing for me was the 2 officers in our firehouse were off, and they didn't stutter. They did what they had to do. That goes to credit to them, and I think it goes to credit to our chief, because a lot of the times when he runs drills, he makes the captain step aside, and he makes people act up so you can see how they're going to do and what they're prepared for, and you know what to prepare them for. But if you're a boss, you need to be preparing your replacement. And I told this to a friend of mine that we talked about it, and my thing was, man, if Pettis can't handle it as good as me when I'm off, I failed him. If you're a boss, your job is to prepare them for when you're not there too. They can't always rely on you. I don't care if it's the medical call, extrication, Rob hanging off the 30th floor of the building, a high-rise, whatever it is, a rescue. They should be able to operate. It might not be as good as when you're there because of a comfort level of being in the position, but they need to be able to operate as close to the same level as when you're there. The standard can't change just because one person's off. But the truck's still got to roll, and that standard can't change. The citizens can't get a different service just because one person's off. That's not how it works. Train your people to act up. Train your replacement. That's a proud thing for me with that call, is we had people act up. And when I called Captain Rob on the way to work that night to tell him, man, I heard y'all did great. He said, man, your guys did good. That's all I can ask. And that's what I told my boss that asked about it. If they can't do it without me, I have failed them. And I honestly believe that as a leader, that is the mindset you have to have. If they can't do it without me, I failed them. Because I didn't.
Great point. Love that final point.
But I got one thing I want Rob to do.
Hold on. Go ahead.
No, before he goes into his final point, I want to ask him to do one thing. Go ahead and give credit to your crew, because I know your crew and they deserve it.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I can't give them enough credit. That's media wanted to come interview us. That's the first thing I say. Hey, I couldn't do it without my crew. I went over the edge, but that's the easy job. I mean, people think, oh, you're hanging over it. It's scary. Yeah, at 400 feet in the air, nerves, get to you. That was the easy job. My crew did the rigging. They did the swapping from a lowering to a raising system. I mean, and I asked them, like I said earlier, are you good? Are you comfortable? And they said, we got it. And talked to Captain Mike afterwards, who was up, the other captain who was up there. He was kind of overseeing that operation. He told me afterwards, he goes, man, he said, you guys did great. He said, I checked over it several times just to make sure everything was good to go. He said, man, it was great. He's like, you guys did good. That goes back to kind of just recapping on what we talked about, mentoring, paying it forward, leading by example. taking lessons that I learned from my captains, multiple ones I had over the years, captains I didn't work with directly, things that they did, mentored, learned, like you said, Todd, sometimes you can learn a lot just sitting in the back. I'm not a very outspoken guy, so usually I'm the guy kind of sitting in the back corner, but I listen, watch, and learn, observe, and man, you learn a lot of stuff just keeping your mouth closed and your ears open. So taking that and paying it forward to my guys, trying to teach them, like Captain Rowett said, you want them to be able to step up and do that when you're not there. And that's something I'm still working with. I got a pretty young crew. I got a fairly new driver, got some younger guys. I don't have a lot of seasoned guys on my truck, so trying to get them up to that level, but they're getting there. They have that desire, that passion. I couldn't ask for a better situation. Working same district right down the street from Captain Rowett. I know I can call him anytime to go do training, and he's all about it. So it's, trying to utilize not just me, but utilize what I have around me to get my guys where they need to be.
A lot of resources out there.
Oh yeah. Just like Captain Rowett wants to get with us to do some tech rescue stuff. Hey, we're all on the same team. All these, you have your company pride, and you kind of got your little rival, with the other companies around you to be first in on fire. But at the end of the day, we're all in the same team.
Yes, sir.
So
love it.
It's all about making sure everybody is on the same page and up to that standard. Because like that call, he had 2 drivers at his station acting up, and man, they did a good job. So
awesome. Captain, we appreciate your time and congratulations to you and your company and all the hard work to make that a successful outcome, and not, those are can be sketch rescues. So kudos to you and your company and to all of their dedication to the job and being that great to be able to do something like that for the first time. It looks like in Mobile's history, got people hanging off of buildings, so that's awesome. A lot of really good things coming up. Keep a tab on myself and Captain Rowett's Facebook pages and all that. A lot of really cool train events coming up over the next this entire fall. Me and Captain Rowett will be together in Pensacola. We'll be together in Lake of the Ozarks. So we've got a lot of cool things coming up. March is not far away. I know it seems like a far away, but Fairhope's right around the corner, and the foundation will be building and gaining steam. So a lot of really, really cool things coming up to end out this year and already into next year. Some really cool things already getting on the calendar. So super excited, and we appreciate everybody watching, listening, whatever you're doing. And we'll call that a wrap.